Hi, I'm live. I'm bored. So this is what we're getting.
They told me, be a man, boy, toughen up. Then they let women become men, they tricked me. They told me, speak your mind if you're brave enough. And I spoke up and I got canceled quickly. We were always too young and too nice. And now we're too old and too white. You're either too left or too right. Well, we're speaking our minds tonight. Cause you can't cancel all of us, and you're more than welcome to try. But you can't cancel all of us, cause we're standing here side by side. And you can't cancel all of us, we burn the stars and the stripes. But you can't cancel all of us, cause the internet ain't real life. They told me, be a man, boy, just like your dad. They told me everything I am.
Thanks for joining, guys.
They said the color of your skin doesn't make you bad, but
mine was
got it. We were always too weak and too afraid, and now we're too male and too straight. You're either too real or too fake. Well, we're speaking our minds today. Cause you can't cancel all of us.
Hey, what's up, Gold? So, yeah, this is his newest release. I like it.
But you can't cancel all of us, cause we're standing here side by side. And you can't cancel all of us.
Got a lot of good cameos in it.
But you can't cancel all of us, cause the internet ain't real life. You can take my job away for something I may have said online, but you can't control a man who won't comply. And you can call me every name that you might think will hurt my pride, but if you think you're stopping me, you're out your mind. Cause you can't cancel all of us, and you're more than welcome to try. But you can't cancel all of us, cause we're standing here side by side. And you can't cancel all of us, you burn the stars and the stripes. But you can't cancel all of us, cause the internet ain't real life. Cause you can't cancel all of us, and you're more than welcome to try. But you can't cancel all of us, cause we're standing here side by side.
Needless to say, I think that's pretty good song, even though they do try and cancel a lot of us. It's nice to know that I'm not the only one that gets strikes, basically. Another reason why I like that song. I got other shit to show here. Hold on. Here's a little one we can talk about, possibly.
Computer systems don't talk to each other. You can exploit that gap. There were over $300 million of Small Business Administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Over 300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely.
Small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114. So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake.
It's incredible how Elon Musk is able to find so much waste, and it's just casually $1 billion here, $1 billion here. Oh, there's a survey. How about we spend $1 billion for a survey that I can probably figure out how to do with? Elon was very generous when he said $10,000. I can probably figure it out with maybe a few $100, not counting labor, but with just a tool. I can probably figure out how to do it. I've run online businesses where I had some pretty complicated surveys, and actually they are not that difficult to do. $1 billion for a survey containing 10 questions. This is mind-blowingly, ridiculously obvious that it's fraud or extreme incompetence and waste.
Anyhow, enough of that shit too. Now we're gonna go to something else here. Let's see. Present. Share screen, share screen. Let's listen to a little bit of this crap.
I'm Shay Russell from mining.com.au, and it is that time of week again when we drag data Dan away from his spreadsheets and whack him in front of a camera. Thanks for putting the headset on today, Dan. How are you, mate?
I'm very, very well, thank you, Shay. Very well.
Thrilled to have you on because we are going to.
By the way, this is Mining Coma. It's an Australian YouTube show. Very few viewers, 2,240. Subscribers, but they give nothing but mining information from that area of the world.
To tackle a rather personal topic today. So everybody, that is not a little ears warning, by the way. This is Trump, the media, and the noise that is coming out of the White House and is a distraction for
100% gold and silver.
Because Dan, I don't even know how to finish that statement. Where are we going? What's the problem here?
The problem is it's a focus on headline, not fundamentals, and that's really what
we're
key. Starting to see, that there is that decoupling when, like
a lot of Trump's strategy is follow the headlines, not the fundamentals, because people don't pay attention to the fundamentals, and that's where he gets with the art of the deal, and everyone seems to be falling for it like crazy. It's funny as hell.
Mr. Trump and those, and those.
Hey, what's up, all nighter?
Circle of leadership, for example, they're focused on.
All right, hold on. We have something going on here. Let me go ahead and make this right. Let's see here. Settings. Found none. Just because All Nighter got here, I gotta make sure we're all in the right frame of mind for this podcast. Smoking lamp is on. That's all right. You got a shit show to be tethered to, buddy. So it's all good. It all works out in the wash.
They seem to focus very much on culture wars, but the fundamentals are they've got a debt ceiling, and even the likes of Doge and all these things we're talking about, they're kind of doing cost savings, which are so minimal. I mean, the merits of these programs are debatable, but the fact of the matter is that the whole world seems to be distracted with, what will they do next? Now, that's a terrible thing for markets because it creates uncertainty, but what it also does, though, is we're starting not to look at the reform questions around the economy. We're looking at personality, and of course, you've got the new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who's called a snap election to really effectively use the Trump bogeyman as a way to get votes, and it's clearly tightened up polls in that part of the world. But if we were to look at what's really going on, particularly for the industry we work in, is that we need to talk about, there's still a need to talk about, what's going on with gold in terms of, its flight to safety model. We still need to talk about critical minerals, how they're going to be in the next evolution of the economy. And we need to get back to talking about the economy and reform. And again, we've just also had here in Australia a budget which I think, on merit, the Treasurer probably didn't want
What's
to
up,
do,
Mr. and Mrs. West Coast Stacker?
because of the election. So the fact of the matter is this:
I never had any
we need to
XRP.
start talking about
I don't
proper
own any
micro and macro economic reform.
I want to
really
but
start
I don't.
driving outcomes
money
from a
right now.
government perspective, but also to start getting back to this idea of what do markets want? Where's the next 12 to 18 months going to go? Where's the next 5 years looking like for resources investment? And currently, so much of our news flow has been dominated by really personality, and there is a fatigue setting in. I can certainly say that is from my part of the world, that fatigue of kind of talking about personality as opposed to fundamentals is certainly it's exhausting, and it is draining after a while.
It certainly is, and thank you in that answer, because you've touched on three things I really do want to go into today, and we'll get to them. But before we do, look, we know that Trump and anything that's coming out of his mouth is hogging airtime in the headlines. Are these masthead and publishers who regurgitate these words, is it their fault? Can we blame them?
I think honestly, like having been in that environment, there's two things, like, like some of the major metros are basically dedicated to reporting everything.
No. I'm just kidding. Welcome to Boxable Casita. Come on in, take a look around.
Okay, commercials.
But what they give up though is talking about the local story and the local angle, and when that story is ignored, like people become disengaged as well. So like when you kind of focus on what's going on overseas at the exclusion of what's going on locally, yeah, there is certainly a. I think the question, it could seem loaded, but it's very true. I mean, if you look at metro mastheads and the way they cover news these days, it's very much international macro focused. It's not actually locally focused. And again, whether to draw a correlation between publishing performance and that strategy, that might reveal something. But by and large, yeah, there's certainly some case of this obsession of one individual or a handful of individuals has certainly been a negative. And I think, yes, there's probably some media outlets could probably dial it back a bit and start focusing on news which people are also incredibly interested in, as opposed to the ramblings of one US president.
Well, let's take this to the fundamentals that are being ignored while these headlines suck
No,
all
I
the
have not.
oxygen out of markets, essentially. What are some of the good fundamentals or the positive fundamentals for mining that are happening in the background that we might be missing because of
Left
these
hand.
noisy headlines?
Well, we've got a very good story on aluminium. And now I know that's been
sweet deja
overshadowed
vu.
by the tariff conversation. What people are missing is that in the 12 months to January, that's a $14 billion trade export story from Australia. Then so the likes of bauxite, and again, this is aluminium ores we're talking here. And within that group of aluminium, it's been such a fantastic story. Now that story is also predicated on the fact that building units, the way houses are being constructed, they're taking on different materials. The evolution of design in this very space is incredibly, it's a really hot story to be telling. And, we've put some time into it in our patch. The fact of the matter is this is probably a little bit more to go in terms of, well, what are they going to come up with next? Now that came as a result of a price signal because traditional steel, sand, rock, those things have become very, very expensive. This kind of this ability to form material is one thing you can do with aluminium, and it tends to be from extraction much closer to the surface, so its cost, its upstream cost is a lot lower than, for example, the likes of iron ore, which go offshore and get processed and that type of thing. So there's a very good story there. Additionally, Australians are starting to clue onto the story that the renewable energy piece, which has been championed by Chris Bowen, the energy minister here in Australia, that's come under scrutiny, and probably rightfully so. So for coal miners and people saying coal's terrible, well, they're starting to look quite closely at this, going, well, what exactly are we talking about? Because it's been the headline dominating at the expense of the detail. And that's kind of where we're tending to find now that as people become more engaged in what drives these particular issues, that there's a very good story there. And like we talk again about the coking coal, which we're very dominant in this part of the world, there's a very good story about that industry if we choose to tell it. So the ability to kind of start putting a lens on economic policies, which some are working well, some are working not so well, we can now really start to drill into that. We've got that benefit of doing that.
No, I've never been to Australia.
Yes, and of course there's gold, which is doing very well, and then copper's the other one because
I'd like to go.
It's thermal properties, for want of a better description. I still think, looking at lithium and the critical battery story, that's, a point in time, and so cars are cars, and the amount of copper and what they're using and fuel consumption and the critical minerals and the rare earths, cars are not evolving, if you know what I mean. There's still a very, very good story to tell there. I just think, if anything, we should be more informed about what the nuance of what machines and how they're being built is happening.
All right, I'm gonna end it there because China bought 2.6 million ounces of platinum out of a 6.5 million ounce supply, which was 1 million ounce short of the goal needed for last year. And they bought about 45% of the world's supply of platinum because they're coming up with new technology power plants for cars, power plants being engines. They're not actually combustion engines at all. They're hybrid style engines. So when he talks about cars haven't changed, he is right. The problem is when I say, V-shaped recovery, technology's coming to change things, blah, blah, blah. There is a lot of technology fixing to come out that is going to change things. Contracts have already been signed. Products have already started to be made. Lots of things are happening in the direction of new technology coming out. They've been working on a copper. There's a new type of, not new, but newer than photovoltaic cell for solar panels. Are the types of solar. I don't remember the name. So I'm trying to look it up right now. Direction types, off-grid, on-grid. Yeah. Hybrid. Ah, shit. It's like photovoltaic, and there's another type. Photovoltaic, and damn, what is that other one? I think a polycrystalline and monocrystalline, I believe. I can't find it right off the bat. But there was this company I did a story on about 7-8 months ago. They used for the new style of photo cell or solar panel, not photovoltaic. They used copper instead of silver and got a 25.9% efficiency rate. And the highest, I believe, silver usage for solar, photovoltaic solar, is like 24.5%. So with this new type of solar, new type of solar that's going to be coming out uses copper and it's more efficient. And that's a new technology that's coming out. I've also stated that Saudi Arabia has allowed, about a year and a half ago, they allowed the first private autonomous flying taxi. And you're like, oh, wow, cool, whatever. Well, see, there's lots of reasons for that. Over in Saudi Arabia, you're not allowed to sue if you get hurt. Your expectations of safety are on you when you do things. That's why they do crazy shit over there. And if you look at like off-road and this desert type stuff, there's some stuff that's illegal here in America that they have as tourist attractions over there in their desert. As a matter of fact, there's a guy who's got a warrant out for his arrest for creating something that the DOD wanted. It was some sort of a sand crawling vehicle that was well overpowered, and they got a warrant for his arrest. And he went to Saudi and he opened a business, and now the king of Saudi's funding him, but he's got to live in Saudi. So they do a lot of stuff over there that's illegal here. So they've been testing for a year and a half the autonomous flying taxi. What that means for a year and a half, they've been working the bugs out, making sure they know what makes it crash so it doesn't crash, so it can be regulated, so it can be brought to America. That's a new technology. There's a nuclear powered rocket engines that NASA just started working on that's going to be coming out. New technology. So graphite conductor. Yeah. Lots of new things going to be coming out. Yeah, they bought the bullion bars because they needed 2.6 million ounces of platinum for contracts they've already signed for hybrid car engines that are going to need platinum. In other words, they're going to be hydrogen-based engine power plants for cars. Because as I've explained in other videos, America for 20 years, we've been promoting the Tesla and the electric because we've followed China's subsidy program of subsidizing EV cars because we want to get everyone off combustion engines, and we're not giving them any choice. We're forcing EVs on them, and it hasn't worked in 20 years. We still sell more combustion engines. They're cheaper. Everyone likes them better. The Japanese had a system that they followed, and we're now adopting it. It's offering the consumer 4 to 5 different power plants for your vehicle, and you'll find a percentage of the population will migrate more to the other power plants offered other than the combustion engine, and a percentage of people buying new cars, not combustion engine, will increase rather than the subsidized electric, which is subsidized by taxpayer dollars. See, that's coming to an end in that part of the economy with us shoving billions at Elon Musk and Tesla. That's coming to an end because we're changing up our philosophy of how to get people off combustion engines into newer technologies. And that also is a new technology coming out. There's going to be like 3 to 4 different styles of brand new power plant or quote unquote car engines in the 2026 design, or maybe the late year 2025 and the 26. They might claim it's a 2025 model, but it'll probably be 2026 model. And you know, gold and silver. See, actually the military. That's old school military tech. They've had that for a while to build underground military installations and shit like that. That's old school tech, but yeah, it's getting out to the public. So, and they actually have lasers that burn through and leave perfectly round holes to make like the Tesla boring company. He actually uses a small machine that goes through and it leaves concrete sidewalls. There's actually technology, a laser that it uses a lot of power. I'm sure it's not cheap, but it fires through and it burns the rock, leaving it's solid anyhow to where you don't need concrete. But that's another story. Now, let's see. I got to get on. Let's see. Virtual background. I got to leave this virtual background because I got to do hand signals here to show you all something. And if you follow the physics and math on this, if you're not a flat earther, this physics works. The earth is round, and this is a horrible demonstration. The earth is round. If, and this is actually a perfect way to look at it. If, and this is cool too, and it's actually, it's proven science. If you take and you dig a tunnel through the earth at that design, center of gravity is right here. If this is Europe here, and then this is the Atlantic Ocean, this is America. If you go at an angle downward, you will actually have a craft that gravity will help pull down to this point, and then it's just like a roller coaster. You can go back up, and that momentum, you can have magnetic push from the earth, push you up, and you can go underground if there's a tunnel with the proper angle, curvature of the earth, and it's a smooth enough tunnel. You can get a high-speed train in there or vehicle in there, and you can travel underneath the Atlantic Ocean from Europe to America in 90 minutes. It's a fact. Do the math. It's all fact. And it's heavy math, dude. You got to get some earth science, physics, trigonometry, geometry. It's factual. Trust me. But no, don't trust me. Check it out for yourself. You'll learn something. Heavy math. You'll learn a lot. You got to learn a lot of math before you figure that one out. But trust me, it's true. I'm just a poor pizza boy. You know, I was a pizza boy for Krusty's Pizza, the Smith brothers, back in the early mid 80s down in the Gulf Coast area. They had a contract where they opened up 2 pizza deliveries within 6 months of Domino's opened up the first one. They were pretty big in the Southeast. They signed a contract with Dino's Food Supply Company that if they got to be like 1/3 as big as that company within a 2-year time period, that company would buy them out. So under that contract and business practice perspective, they didn't worry about profit margin for 2 years. Every bit of money they made, they used to open up another Krusty's Pizza deliver all the way along the Gulf Coast or the Redneck Riviera. They opened up like 36 of them in 2 years, and they used me to go in there and open up these. And because I was too young, I was only like 17, I was the assistant manager, opened up 26 stores. Quiet! That's silver, sorry. And they got big enough to meet that contract where they were like 25% as big as Dino's Food Supply. So Dino's Food Supply had to legally buy them out. They got millions of dollars and then closed every one of them down. The fucking best 2-year business move I've ever seen. And they closed all of the Krusty's Pizzas down. There wasn't one. It's like Dino's Food Supplier intent, actually, because of that stupid contract, they actually lost millions of dollars. Because none of those pizza delivery places were sustainable. They were just new because they didn't have to be sustainable for the contract that the Smith brothers were going for. They just needed to get a certain percentage of numbers. Business is a freaky beast. I know this guy, he sorry, I'm making some tea right now, guys. I'm a little far away from the computer. And this guy came up with the first underground hydraulic not drilling machine. It was a hydraulic pipe laying machine to where you didn't have to dig up the ground. It was like hydraulically run. You'd hook the pipe up to it, and this little head would go underground, and it would like kind of sort of pneumatically push itself and pull the pipe underground for under roads and shit like that, so where you didn't have to excavate the road out. And he came up with that technology in the mid 80s, had a company. Quiet, Silver! And he sold to a larger company for several millions of dollars. And it's millions not big now, but back then that was a lot of money. It was like $5 million or something like that. And he signed the contract, boom, 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 non-disclosure or something like that, saying he could never open up another company or be president for another company. He was like, cool. Signed the contract, got the money, told his wife to open up a company doing the same thing because they didn't exclude her. So she opened up a company within 30 days, and they bought her out for $2 million. Again, contractual errors made that guy a couple $1 million. So business doesn't work exactly the way people think it does. That was just a heads up for anyone who wants to get into business. Okay, Zardos, it's simple science on the gravity train or gravity vehicle that would save money and energy and time to get from continent to continent. Yeah, actually, nowadays, you don't. That's old school technology. I actually did a video. The Marines have already discharged or gotten away with 2 of their mortar divisions. No, 3 mortar divisions. And they created a new mortar division because America came out, again, new technology. I did a video on this. This is keeping us world leaders, guys. I'm telling you, America's going nowhere. We have this mortar that fires 77 kilometers. The other longest mortar fire by any other country is the Chinese can fire 45 miles. The difference and the reason why ours can go 77 miles is because it's what's called a smart mortar. It's more like a missile that we fire, and it's directional. So in other words, and you'll understand this, Mr. and Mrs. West Coast Stacker, because you're talking about the artillery there. You know how you have the curvature? Well, see, that no longer applies because say if you have a mountain and your enemy's on the other side of the mountain and you want to mortar them, it's really, really hard to hit them with traditional mortar fire. But with this new style of mortar, it can actually go up in the air and change its trajectory and come back down and actually hit the other side of that mountain in a specific point on the map that you put in its guidance system, and it goes for 77 kilometers. So no, it's a tracking mortar basically. So, and also we have the Howell brothers used to have this show on Discovery Channel when they came up with their cool little tank system. Well, the Department of Defense bought them out several years ago. And I've seen the technology, the Department of Defense, again, they're coming up with a strategy that's been introduced into the Marine Corps for proposal of how to defend the Pacific Islands, not in the same way as they did in World War II, but by coming up with a lot more robotic style platoons and make the platoons more small company or large platoon. About 100 Marines with a lot of autonomous robotic equipment like the Manta, the Ripsaw, because they now have a Ripsaw that has modular components for anti-ship, anti-air. So you could drop off a small force of 100 Marines. This is their theory that they're going off, their future war theory that they're going to start training Marines for, and they have the equipment for it. About 100 men with these different autonomous vehicles, because like I said, you could just strap anti-air, anti-ship stuff onto the Ripsaw, It can go so fast it can actually run out on the water several hundred yards, fire all of its armament, turn around, come back. You don't have to take it with you. You just did some major damage. And then you got some of these, what they're called manta, which are autonomous submarines that can be dropped off with them. And they go and they either lay mines or shoot torpedoes and stuff. And you can do like hit and run is what the Marines are looking at. Because you can take 100 guys and all that autonomous equipment, drop them off on an island, and they can island hop also. Use up all that equipment, pull the guys out. And because it's autonomous equipment, once all of it's used up, you just, make it self-destruct to where the enemy can't use it. Reload the guys with autonomous equipment, send them back out. And that's how you can downsize the size of the Marines on an invasion stopping or an invasion force. And that's just what the Marines are doing. The Navy's got plans because, again, with the Manta, it takes out the need for all of a mass amount of submarines. As a matter of fact, it scares the hell out of every defense force in the world because the Manta is about 34 by 34 meter long, autonomous. It looks actually like a manta ray, and it can sit, you just send it out and it sits at the bottom of the ocean, turns everything off. It can sit for a decade until you send the signal, and it could have mines in it. It could have missiles in it, anti-ship, anti-air, ballistic, nuclear. It can have submarine torpedoes in it. And we can deploy thousands of these things, and they can just sit at the ocean floor until we need them. It's called a deterrent. And we've got some of the best deterrents fixing to come out. Again, new technology, along with a lot of aerial and subsonic space air technology for airplanes, the 6th generation fighter jet. Oh my God, it'll be coming out soon too. So there's a lot of stuff coming out, new technology all over the board, along with robotic or autonomous robotic manufacturing and what do you call those, assembly plants. Those will be coming too, but they'll still need humans. Because I have been at the Tesla plant before it moved from Fremont to Texas. And they had a lot of robots, but they still had humans. Not nearly as many humans, but that's innovation and growth. Those humans went and got another job. But they also still had humans. They had iron workers were working there. Truckers were coming and going with supplies. They still had, and yet it was a robotic factory for the most part. It was actually kind of cool to see. So anything else anyone else want to talk about? Or will I end this Saturday stream because we've run out of things to talk about? I noticed we've gone down to 3 people, so I think I've lost a lot of people's interests. Shit, man, patent it if you fixed it. Well, you can sell it to everyone else so you can tell them how to fix their bad Wi-Fi. Make some money on that one. A lot of people have bad Wi-Fi. We have fiber optic, and it's worse and slower fiber optics than it was when we didn't have fiber optics. And they say fiber optics is supposed to be better and all that. I haven't seen it. Not in the load speed, not in I still have lag, and we're on fiber optics, so. And that's just how it goes. If anyone wants to come up and run their mouth, there's the link. You can do like me. You don't have to show your face, or you can show your face. Sometimes I don't give a fuck. Sometimes I do. Actually, I don't ever give a fuck. Sometimes I'm just too lazy to show my face because I don't like leaving this Band-Aid not over the camera of this computer just for future hacking purposes. If someone like hacks in and wants to look through your fucking camera, and all they'll see is a Band-Aid, like what, the other side of a Band-Aid. No, 79 hasn't even made it here yet. I doubt she's coming. So, You know, the funny thing about that, those are vibrations and frequencies. And I don't know effects on human brain waves or patterns about frequencies and stuff. But what I do know is if you take two beehives and you stick them underneath the high powered national transmission lines for the power grid, the bees come up with a new personality and type of living. They turn cannibalistic, but only within a certain distance from those high power, high voltage power lines that transmit power across the nation. So there's something to be said for the effects of electromagnetic and radio wave and other things like that we don't know the effect of totally on the human psyche or even physical effects. Because I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, they probably do know. They just don't tell us, or the information is not readily available without fucking spending a lot of time looking for it. And I don't like looking for information too hard. It should be relatively easy to get. But anyhow, yeah, I got nothing too, Zardos. That's what I'm thinking. I think I'll end this because I was just bored, and I'm still fucking bored. So, no, it's not causing changes. What's the problem with the bees is no one gives a fuck about them, and they don't know how to treat them. And modern day beekeepers are actually the most evasive thing to hit the beehive since the beehive was created. They don't know. They have not been. They don't have the proper equipment to properly take care of the health of the bees. So they're always going into the hive, correcting problems that are caused because of an inefficient box system that causes those problems. It's like the government. The Langstroth box system causes issues that the human beekeeper has to go into the hive and be evasive. And the reason why I keep bringing that up is because every time you go into the hive to check it out and do something, you're messing with the mojo of the hive. Honey production slows down, brood production slows down, a lot of things slow down, and you constantly have to go inside the hive and make corrections because the Langstroth box system is basically fucked up. It causes mold and mildew. It causes parasites. It allows hornets and wasps easily enter and disappear straight in the comb and do massive devastation. It allows for wax moths easily enter and hide and cause massive devastation, all because of the design of the Langstroth box itself. If you do any common sense studies on bees and their habitat and their living and the way they actually work, you will find that my system, the Sutherland system, actually addresses quite a few, I'm sure not all of them because I haven't had any peer review on it, but it addresses a majority of the issues of colony health just by design of the hive box itself. So that just lets you know the technological advances of human thought and brain power put to bees care has not changed in 150 years. So basically, if you're caring for bees right now, let's see, 150 years ago, that'd be 1860s, 1870s. You have the brain power of someone in late 1800s, because that's the technological advancements that was made for the Langstroth system and the teaching of that system. That's how barbarically old. If you were to go to a doctor that was trained in 1860s or 1870s medicine, he'd probably use leeches on you and say that would save your life. See, technology advanced in every field except for beekeeping for the past 150 years. I put 6 years of my life into changing that. Yeah, that's one of the things, all-nighter, when the critters that actually kill bees enter through the Sutherland system, it funnels them into a killing zone, and it takes less guard bees to guard that opening. It's just it's simplistic strategic thinking on how the bee defends its hive and how the bee creates brood for the males for the 1 month of the season where they have to do that, and how that interferes with the hive because of the design of the Langstroth box, how the bees hermogically clean each other during cleansing frenzies and drop all the parasites on the bottom floor, then have to walk through all those parasites to get out because of the design of the Langstroth system. The humidity buildup, an increase of mold and mildew and wax moths, all due to the design of the Langstroth system hive. All these problems are created because of the design of the Langstroth system hive. So that's why I created the Sutherland system hive. It addresses all of those problems, takes care of the bees. Hey, what's up, Jethro? It doesn't address the actual true health of the bee. The U.S. Forest Service has to address that, because last I checked, the U.S. Forest Service has a policy to kill mushrooms in the forest instead of just let them be. And the actual health of the bee depends on the mycelia network of mushrooms in the wild, because it's been proven through Paul Stamen's research in the University of Washington, through his research and 20 years of studies on mushrooms and 17 medicinal patents on them. He discovered that the mycelia network of the mushrooms, if the bee drinks the dew off of that in the wild, where the mushrooms grow wild, it actually turns the bee's immune system on, and then actually live for a year, where every beekeeper in America will tell you bees only live 12 to 16 weeks. That's actually bullshit. That's a bee that does not have its immune system turned on will live only for 12 to 16 weeks. Using my full mobile apiary system, not the prototype concept design that I have in the garage, but the finished prototype will have a mushroom base, trays on the bottom growing mushrooms that the bees will have access to. Because if you have a healthy hive of bees that have their immune systems turned on, the breeding cycle exponentially grows the size of the hive, which just exponentially grows the amount of capital gain you can get from having that style of beehive. It's a financial thing I'm looking to do before I die. I'm looking at turning out a mobile, coming up with a mobile beekeeping industry. Yeah, see, they use traps, all that other shit. If you go to my website, as a matter of fact, this is my show. I can do it. Hold on a second. I'm gonna get a let's see, saved. That's Animals Mine. Let's see here. It's not the first one. I'm trying to find the video. Okay. We'll show this one. It's kind of shitty 4-minute, 3-minute video. It doesn't do a great job, but it does an okay job of explaining my system. Let me see here. See if I got it up. Okay, let me go see if I can do full screen layout. And we'll go see if we can do full screen.
About this system.
Nope,
we have it in open configuration right now. As you can see, bees are still bringing in honey. Not honey actually, but what will be honey. Pollen in there. Lots of activity. Hold the wings down on the side. It helps protect from wind and also in mobile transportation. We open the top up, give ourselves.
Can you see all the bees flying around in front? And if you look at the words pure, raw, natural, and honey, you see those holes? That's actually where the entrance of the hives are. The white, the little bit underneath is a mobile, removable screening system that I have. I believe this one might show
room to get inside. And we have a unique entry system here. And you enter into a pretty bee-free zone. As you can see out here, there's tons of bees flying around. Tons of them. There's 1, 2 flying around in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how and set it here.
Yeah,
In this way, it's also how we clean
there we
it
go.
out. Nothing needing to be cleaned out right now. The
This
cooler
is
air
screen bottom.
comes in through this bottom, and they regulate up to 5 to 6 degrees temperature, and it comes pushing out here with the wind not hitting them because of their sides. Perfect system for bees. Thank you for watching this video. More to follow.
That was actually a shitty video. Let me see if I can find a better one. Sorry about that, guys. I know I got a better one here. And plants, animals. No, can't find any. I got a 6-minute video somewhere. It shows a better, a better walkthrough of my hive system. I think I sent it to All Nighter. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's very efficient and it's mobile because nowadays, Jethro, what happens is people have to pick the hive up, put it on the back of the trailer, throw the screen on top of it, get there early in the morning, close them up, do all this extra work. With my beekeeping system, all you do is you show up in the morning, take your wine bottle corks, put them in the openings before the sun rises, back your car up, drop the trailer hitch, take off. And boom, you just moved 10 hives. The old system, the way everyone else does it with the length draw system, non-mobile system, you got to take your trailer, back it up. You got to close up all the hives. It's very much difficult because there's like a 12 or 14-inch opening that you have to close up. And as you're closing it up, bees will recognize it and they'll try and get out, and it becomes difficult. And then they start attacking you. And after you get all 10 of that done, then you've got to have a friend there to help you pick them up individually, load them onto a trailer. After you get them loaded on the trailer, you got to take a special net, throw it over, secure the net, and then you secure the hives because you don't want them to shake and move because that'll really piss the bees off. But since they're on a typical trailer, that's exactly what's going to happen. And then to get them to your spot, you unload them. You run like hell before you open each one up because you've already hit so many road bumps and everything that the big ball hive that's in that box hive has been pushed or released from the comb and thrown to the bottom. So they're real fucking pissed off. And that's the traditional way of moving a hive. My way, things on shocks. My commercial design is going to have double shocking system. It's going to have 4 wheels, double shocks. It's going to be such a shock absorbing system. The bees will be able to be moved without. And also with my system, they've got 4 inches or 6 inches to free fall after they release from the comb before hitting the ground, to where most of them, a majority of them, will take flight and not be damaged at all if they do hit a bump. To where with the Langstroth system, they have about 3/4 of an inch to achieve that, and they don't. Yeah, happy bee, happy life, happy wife. Because if you have a happy bee, you're getting more honey. And if you're getting more honey, you're getting more money. And if you add mushrooms to it and you extend the bee's life from 16 weeks to 52 weeks, and the queen still produces 10,000 to 50,000 bees a month, but yet they're not dying off, you've exponentially increased the size of your hive 10x. And if your bees do that, you keep adding boxes. And if those boxes fill up with comb and brood, you can sell those boxes for $300 a box. So if you increase the lifespan of your bee, you increase your money that you can make by selling your bees, because you just exponentially increase the amount of bees you're going to have. So you have that at $300. So if you have 10 hives and every 2 months you got to split off the box, you're getting $3,000 every 2 months, plus your honey and pollination contracts. Pollination contracts are $150 per hive per week, or $300 for 2 weeks, because an average pollination contract's 2 weeks. So 10 hives brings you in $3,000 every 2 weeks for the pollination contracts you get for a 5 hive farm. So you can make depending on how hard you want to look for places to pollinate, you can make between $80,000 to $140,000 with a finished product of my mobile apiary. And that's the sales pitch. But the thing is, there's not a listing of small farms because America's gone to monoculture farming for the past 50 years, and we've killed off the small farmers. So there's not a listing of small farmers that need pollination contracts, although there is a larger number every year of smaller farmers needing pollination contracts. It's because our economy's been shifting. And you guys should know that because it's called preppers. Hey, I got a 5-acre fucking self-sustainable place. Okay, you grow food. You got about an acre. You're gonna need 2 beehives for 2 weeks. Pollinate all your shit. There's only 5 beekeepers in America that do pollination contracts, and they average, the smallest one I think has 1 million beehives. So you're going to be paying them like $400,000. Oh, you can't afford that? Oops, looks like there's a market there for something, huh? Yeah, buddy. Because the guys that do that now, the way I explained to you, that they move their Langstroth system hive, that's how they do it. So you think they're real excited to get fucking $3,000, get stung about 50 times in a 2-week time period? I don't think that's worth it for them. Using my system, they don't get stung at all. And it doesn't take nearly as long. It doesn't take 2 people. It just takes one. So much easier, more convenient. It's just an easier way to make money off the bees. And the bees love you because you don't have to fucking fuck with them. You just put little wine corks in their fucking entryway. 3 wine corks. Boom, boom, boom. Hive closed up. And anyone who does beekeeping with the Langstroth system, you tell me if it takes more than 2 seconds to close up the entryway fully. Yeah, it does. So there's a lot to be said for looking at things that we accept as normal and ask yourself, how long ago has this been upgraded? How long ago is this thought of this innovation? How long ago was it? How long ago was it that they created shoes? Can they be updated? How long ago was it that they created belts? Can they be updated? How long ago was it, just ask yourself that. And as you go through those questions, you'll be like, hold on, wait. So it's been 150 years since someone developed a new beehive? I think we've become a little more intelligent in the past 150 years. Let's see if I can't do better. Simple question, and I created the answer, and now I've got a new system. All from a question. If I hadn't have asked that question, I would have never gotten that mobile apiary or gained all that knowledge or changed the face of beekeeping as soon as my system comes out to a more, what I have labeled and determined, and it's my word, it's creation of a new word, begonomic system. It's like an ergonomics. With ergonomics, you look at how better a human can work by the comfort position of the equipment that human works with is called ergonomics. So I determined that begonomics is making a more efficient beehive and bee system that is more efficient for the bee. And no one's ever done that in history. I'm sure there's other things out there that can be, that thought process could be added to, that all you got to do is ask a question. When was the last time someone looked at this and improved it? Was it 100 years ago? Because I think we've become intelligent in the past 100 years, All right, Zardos, talk to you later, brother. They need to learn how to think. Our schooling system doesn't teach people to think. They teach them to fucking listen and do, not question. That's why I was such a problem child in every school I was at. Quiet, Silver! Because I asked questions. I wasn't satisfied with the answers they gave me from kindergarten all the way up to when I quit 10th grade. And in the Army, I questioned too. I question everything. If it doesn't sound right, I question it because I'm not a fool. I'll follow an order in the military, but if it sounds stupid, I'll let you know. I'll be like, hey, this sounds stupid. Is there a better way? And then I'll still follow it, but I'll let you know. And that's, why I didn't get along in the military. They don't like that too much. Sorry, I had to walk away to pour some tea. Session's going a little bit longer. I already finished one tea glass. Now I got to get another one. Oh, we're down to 3 people again. All right. I think I'm going to end this one, guys. I appreciate y'all for coming in and jumping in and out. I wish some of you would have come up so we could have chatted. Last chance. Anyone wants to come up and shoot the breeze or whatever. You know, it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword, bro. The more you learn from answering your questions, there gets to be a point, at least for me, I was like, dude, you know, people say I'm smart, but I feel stupid as fuck because every time I get a question answered, it's like 12 more questions come. So I actually walk away with my answer feeling stupider than when I got the answer to my question. In a lot of cases, not every case, but in a lot of cases, that's what it's like. The knowledge is never fucking ending. And there's so much out there, and it's actually all intertwined. It is literally all intertwined when you get to that certain point. And it's like, it goes back, and I never realized this when I was ignorant, but by God, ignorance truly is bliss, and bliss is true happiness. It's ignorance, but it's happiness because you don't realize you don't know so much. And the smarter people actually aren't smart. They just realize how much they don't know. It's kind of counterintuitive, but they've learned that what they've learned isn't even the tip of the iceberg, and that's more than most. So they're called intelligent, but in all actuality, all they've done is realize that they're stupid, and they want to try and not be stupid, and they keep trying. And every time they get a little step, it's like going from basic math, addition, subtraction, to jumping into trigonometry. It's like you jump so many steps, you feel stupid again, but it's still math. It's just different levels of math, different understandings, and that's what it seems like life is. The more you learn, it's like you like, oh wow, okay, so I needed to learn that as a base to learn this, to add to that base, to learn this, to get a more conclusive look at what I want to see after I get that base knowledge built. Now I can ask the question, and by the time you get there, you've got 50,000 other questions. But I mean, it's cool. Knowledge is cool. Learning is cool, but ultimately, I mean, you can't never stop learning. And if you have that principle of thought, the younger you are with that principle of thought, the more genius you're going to be after 30 or 40 years of consecutive learning. Because then you're like me, just things that you learned 20 or 30 years ago, you remember because you learned them. So just in a general conversation, you can call out someone on bullshit because you know for a fact, because you learned it, because you studied and you researched it 30 years ago, and you've done this type of shit for 30 or 40 years, that it just comes naturally to be able to say, you know, the facts come to you because, like, you know, oh, no, Jimmy Carter, you know, sent Delta Force into the desert in 1979. And they got popped because they didn't know how the desert affected the rotary effects of a helicopter. And it caused a lot of bullshit, and the instruments got fucked up and they ran into each other. Now, I remember that story clearly. I remember, you know, the Shah being overthrown. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, several decades after that, I met him in the early 2010s, was actually a superintendent of a construction site of 16 Air Force high-rises for personnel when the Shah was overthrown by the Ayatollah. And he became a good friend of mine for years. He lives in Concord. Yeah, I think he's dead now. He's an older guy. He owned a couple of 7-Elevens. But that's why I you know, I remember seeing pictures in the early 70s, and I was young. Iran was beautiful, man. They had fucking cars, the women, beautiful dresses. Everything was like, it was like California in the 70s, you know? And then all of a sudden, boom, we're living in the world we're living in now. but it wasn't always like this. Iran was our best ally, but it's all planned. It's everything is planned. It's got times. Everything's got a time cycle to it. It was planned for Iran to do that because in the future they needed to do something else to cause other things to happen. Iran couldn't remain free and democratic. It wasn't in the cards. There's a bigger plan in play, and you can't look at the micro without seeing the greater world future that others have planned. They're called, so I don't know who these others are. They're called social experiments. We've got one going on in Argentina right now for the economy. We got one going on in West Africa for economic basing. We got one going in South Africa as to how to fall apart. We got one going in where is it? Where else is there? So Australia with their mining, and it's fixing to fucking blow. I mean, fuck drill. The saying is going to be mine, and it's already happened. If you're not on board, just like crypto, if you're not early, you're late. And the mining revolution has actually come. We're in it right now. It's just no one's really talking about it. And that's why I talk about a lot about nanonuclear energy, NNE, in the newest live stream I did a couple of days ago about those others, the OKLO out of California. They're coming up with their regulatory meetings to do their own. And then that other one out of Sweden. So there's going to be 2 new competitors entering that market. They're going to take off too as soon as their stock's available. It's going to take off like a freaking crypto. There's going to, as we crash, things are going to take off because that's what's called when things end, things begin. Everyone concentrates on this crash coming. You don't see the new things coming to replace the things that are in the crash. Wall Street has a system. It's in writing. It's a policy of theirs. If there is a company that's not performing, that's pulling the Dow Jones average down, they kick it out and they pull in a better performing company. That's why right now the companies aren't Sears, aren't these stable things we grew up with in the 70s and 80s. These companies, they're all out. Ford, all these other ones, they're out, and all these new Microsoft and all these new Facebook and Meta, all this crap. These are new, 20 years old, but they're old because they're 20 years old. And new companies are going to be coming and stepping them as those ones go down and out if they can't transform into the new technologies that are going to be taking over. It's a cycle that's been repeating and repeating throughout the stock market since we've had a stock market, and it's in writing. They will do this. They'll take companies out, and then you look at the history of the stock market, just the stock market, no other economy, just the stock market, and you see a pattern of how they do things. Then you compare that pattern with time periods and the economy. Then you overlay those, and you see another pattern. Oh, dude, Jeff, bro, I've done so many videos on that. Once Russia, actually this year, they're getting the 3 largest nuclear powered icebreakers in the world are being launched this year. They've been building them for a while. Once they get them out, they're going to have 34 icebreakers to R11. They're going to be able to keep the Northern Passage open 24/7, 365. You want to see China collapse? Wait till Russia opens up that. It'll be open this year, next year. The reason why I say that is because China's invested damn near close to $1 trillion in these fucking deep water ports for shipping, right? Well, here's a question for you. What happens when the Northern Passage opens up year round? Hold on, wait, I'll answer it for you. You don't even have to worry about it. I'll answer it for you. Every cost of shipping using the Northern Passage drops by 30%. Manpower and labor charges drop by 30%. Insurance drops by 30%. Fuel drops by 30%. Shipping time drops by 30%. So if you can save 30% on 3 or 4 different things, why the fuck would you use the Chinese system and go the other way, the other route that uses their ports? When you can directly use the Northern, it's going to affect China's economies. It's going to crush China's economy. The whole One Belt Road thing is going to be crushed by the Northern Passage. Sorry, I had to put some milk in my tea. But yeah, the One Belt Road thing's going to get crushed by that one. And also, as a matter of fact, Russia, I think 3 years ago, retook over their World War II ports and built 2 new deep water ports in the Arctic just for the opening of the Northern Passage so they could service the ships along the route of the Northern Passage. That's how serious they are about having it open. They funneled billions of dollars into 2 deep water ports along the Northern Passage to facilitate year-round shipping and distribution. So you'll be able to ship your goods all through by rail. And no one talks about Russian rail and all their innovations they've made in Russian rail. But the Russian rail system is pretty goddamn good, and they're going to lead straight to their 2 deep water ports. So all of Asia and Europe and Africa, well, part of yeah, if they get the rail system in Africa, it'll eventually be able, all of it will be able to be railed through to Russia. But definitely Europe and Asia and Russia, all goods and not services, but all goods will go straight up through the rail system, Russian controlled, straight into Russian deep water ports, onto the Northern Passage shipping lanes, distributed out to where the fuck they need to go. No one talks about how that's going to affect the economy. Neil looks at that shit. That's why I say other people are full of shit on their analysis on what's going to happen, because they don't have a full picture. The full picture is the Russians are going to take over the Chinese economy by what they're doing, by this one statement that Jethro Bodine made. No one's looking at that one. I've heard 1 or 2 reports on it, but they don't take it seriously. But no one considers if a company can save 30% across the board on shipping, insurance, fuel, labor, why the fuck would they go? Why wouldn't they use it? And what happens when that kind of thing happens? Well, the other routes, well, they lose business. What happens when you lose business? You lose money. Okay, so who has those other routes? Oh, China. Oh, they've been investing heavy in those other routes. Oh, they are so totally screwed. Oh, but I thought BRICS was all good, happy kumbaya people. I mean, look, I think they just got together and threw a party for South Africa. I've seen how great they are not helping them reopen their nuclear power plants, but yet Russia's building a nuclear power plant in Egypt, or actually 2 in Egypt and 1 in Burkina Faso, but they won't help BRICS South Africa restart theirs so they can have power more than half of the year or half of the day, however you want to look at it. The BRICS guys really ain't helping themselves out there. And when Russia and China don't help themselves out with this trade war that they will be having, I see BRICS falling apart. Sorry, guys. I don't see how it'll survive. It's a good idea in principle. But the only problem I've always had with it is those countries don't like each other. They're competing against each other. Russia already owns the BRICS system. They created 2 cryptocurrency bases, one in St. Petersburg and one in Moscow, to control all transactions on the BRICS system that they have of digital transfers. So China has shit involved financially in that. They're going to lose their ass when it happens. I mean, damn. And no one talks about how many people have died in China. I actually watched this one show. This one lady, she thinks close to 1 billion people could have died theoretically in China. She definitely knows at least 300 million have died, and if you look at those numbers, and you can't discount it, I'm not saying they're true. I'm not saying they're not true. We all know the mortuaries were overfilled for a good year straight, and that's never happened before in history. So no one's ever done the numbers on that, but they've lost quite a few people. So I don't trust those numbers. But China, before any extraordinarily large number of extra deaths happened, was on the brink of a population problem to begin with. Because if you drop below a certain point of population growth, it's your society's literally dead. And every corporation in the world is going to start pulling out and going to a company that's more vibrant and alive and long lasting and long lived. And I did a video on that in India, actually, for the next 40 years, looks pretty good for industrial capacity. And pharmaceuticals has changed over to India, like 9 years ago. So, and China, everyone still thinks China has the pharmaceuticals. No, they don't have them anymore. They don't have a lot of stuff. India took it. That's why India and China. Oh, there's another one. India and China want to go to war because India is consuming all of China's industry because China doesn't have the people to maintain it. They're all dying off. And if you look into the future, why the hell would a company want to invest in China if in 20 years they're not going to have the people to man your manufacturing plant? So now the $1 billion you put in that manufacturing plant, looking to get money out of it for the next 30 years, you ain't going to get the money out of it but for 1/3 of that time. So why the hell are you going to make that investment? Okay, so now no one's going to invest in China. Bingo! Hot damn. I just laid it out for you. China's been dead, and I've been telling you guys this for a long time. I've seen the writing on the wall. I'm just trying to wake other people up to it. Yeah, exactly, All-Nighter. There's so many things. Yeah, there's so many things going on. But yeah, that's what's happening. I think BRICS is a big distraction. Here's another thing people don't realize. Of all the BRICS countries, only Russia has worked with the IMF and the World Monetary Fund to digitize their whole economy over the past 5 years now. So they're ready for a digital economy. So if you don't think crypto is going to be a thing, well, if we don't have to deal with Russian goods, then I guess digital things won't happen. If we have to deal with Russian goods, we're going to have a digital economy. That's our enemy already has one. So we have to work with them, and we will work with them. We have worked with them, and we're going to continue to work with them. So we have to have a digital economy. So if you just accept that fact, and it is a fact, then you start looking at the cryptocurrencies in a little different manner and see what can be digitized in a normal economy for a new digital economy and make appropriate moves. It moves just like the stock market up. And, it's a different types of move. I'm not comparing it with the stock market, but if you want an analogy, it's like a stock market, just more volatile and actually more cyclical, meaning it's actually less volatile because you can see patterns more easy. If you look at the crypto charts, every 4 years, pretty much the same thing. Accountability, you can count on it, kind of, sort of, not exact dates, but generalities. And that's even a better shot of making money than in the stock market. So, and with these new technologies coming out, there's going to be new companies coming out on the stock market anyhow, and the old reliable ones will be going away. So, just like in 2009, like late 90s, when all these tech companies were coming out and the tech bubble came and all these companies were coming around. I mean, I built so many damn buildings. I spent 15 years building nothing but tech buildings in San Jose, Oracle, Facebook, Sun Microsystems, Microsoft, freaking, I said Oracle. Yeah, we built shitloads of buildings, just tech buildings, for like 15 years. Okay, well, that technological revolution has ended and the new one is coming, is what I'm saying. And our economy is going to shift accordingly, and digital is going to be a part of it. Precious metals are also going to be a part of it, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, it doesn't matter. Everything's going to be a part of it. It's a new system that's coming. The fiat dollar was only supposed to be temporary. And if you look at it, as I will use uneducated economists, 2% annually adjusted over time. 2% times what equals 100%? 50. So, okay, so if the fiat dollar goes for over 50 years, then technically we're in a negative for a dollar, and our money is worth less. Actually, in reality, it's worth less because of the 2% annual inflation over 50 years. It's been going for 53 years. So we're at an average annual inflation rate of 106% of 100%. Hello, we can't keep this dollar. Come on, let's get realistic here. Now you look at the world economies, and everyone's saying, oh, well, the world economies are, 86 countries kicked out their governments last year for new governments. So yeah, economic change is pretty much coming. Russia's been working on a digital economy. SWIFT's coming around saying they want a digital this, digital that. I mean, it's pretty much blatant to see what's going to happen, guys. Position yourselves accordingly. I don't have the fucking crystal ball that tells all. I just know that it's coming. I do know there are some cryptos that I think are going to freaking take off like a son of a bitch that no one's heard of. And that's cool. Whatever. That's my research. And I will benefit or, lose accordingly. So, and I'm also going to be buying silver off of those crypto profits. And then when the silver starts running up, I'm going to sell a lot of that shit and I'm going to buy a fucking house. And it's all going to happen this year. Yeah. Didn't happen last year, the year before that, and it won't happen next year or the year after that. It's called cycles, and a lot of them are running together. Boom! It's like having natural waves and then having two boats go against the waves, and you're on the shoreline. All of a sudden, you got three different wave patterns coming at you, all at the same time, but they don't hit at the same time. They hit sequentially. So if you ride one in, and as it starts to top, jump out, take your profits, and start riding the other one before it goes up, and do that on the third one, you should have 100x or at least 50x to your fund. So if you start off with $1,000 and you ride it right, you could have $50,000. And if houses are even 30% cheaper than they are now, that is more than enough for a substantial down payment for an average house. But it's not going to be full digital, Jethro. It's going to be an addition to digital, but we're also going to be introduced to a new physical dollar bill because there's too much physical bills out there. And then you run into the problem that the uneducated economist talks about of having extra bills or not enough bills or all this other crap that they talk about actually with the physical bill. We're still going to have that problem when we change in over systems to a physical. Hold on a second. Quiet, Silver. When we change over to a digital economic system, we'll still have the physical bill issue. It's not going to go away. So how to deal with that is, again, a time period, 20, 25 years, introduce a new physical bill that'll eat up that time period of the M2 money supply thing and square it away with a new, more solid commodity-based bill system that'll also be digital. And the reason why it'll be digital is because Congress just created a bill that allows financial institutions to create their own stable coins and back it 1-to-1 with the fiat or with the dollar, not the fiat dollar, but with the US dollar. So they haven't started that yet. So if we come up with a new dollar, a new money, a new physical bill, at the same time we come up with a digital bill, and we allow these financial institutions to create their digital currency, their company digital currency to be used as money by us consumers, like the bill says it's going to. You look back through history and see when financial institutions created currency legally in America. That time period was from 1836 to 1862, where banks actually created their own money. And if you look at that economy, it was actually pretty goddamn good because that's the time where banks competed for customers. Now, if you have competition for customers and you're being the customer, that means they're going to give you better interest rates on your they're going to give you interest rates on your savings, which now they don't, and they're not going to charge you fees, but they're going to give you bennies, and then they're going to compete. And anytime you have competition, it's good for the consumer, and that's the type of economy that we're going to go into. And it's going to be introduced in the digital format, but we're still going to have the physical bill going along with that. And then there's going to be like a 25-year time cycle for the whole world to get used to it, for us to get the dollar under control, and then it'll probably go full digital or whatever. I don't know. That's years in advance. A lot of things can happen. But the way it's going right now, that's what's pretty much going to happen. Because everything runs, if you just look through history, everything's, and don't look through history as a history buff or someone who wants to look for a certain answer. Just look through history and see, well, why'd this happen? Why'd that happen? Again, go back to questioning. Don't go back to thinking you know, because you as an individual only read history, just like I as an individual only read history. But what you forgot was history was written by the victor. It's not the truth. So if you go back in history and you start asking questions, you actually find out the truth and true history rather than the told history or recorded history. Because as everybody knows and seems to forget, history is written by the victor. It's not the truth. That's factual. And if you do that, if you know that in your research, you ask different questions when you find shit out. And you also look for different things and ask different questions to start with. And yes, every teacher in history hated me. There was only one teacher that I got along with. He was a cool dude. Ended up going to jail for cocaine sales, but he was a cool guy. He was an English professor. I'm actually a retired engineer from out here in California. Cool guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head though. Yeah, I'm not good on the economic numbers all nighter. I do know that they don't add up. I'll put it to you like that. And I do know that there's a bigger scheme for a growth of an economy. Because see here, and this is what you got to look at too. You have to have an understanding that we're only looking at here and now. And for when you're looking at to get these answers for these questions you're asking, you got to consider, okay, well, where are we going to be in 10 or 20 years? Do we plan on being in a worse place or a better place? And keep that in mind when you ask your questions, because it'll actually add to your knowledge base when you're getting your answers, because none of us are setting up for failure. And if you look, each country, each city, each county, each state, and our federal government comes up with a prospectus every 20 years as to what they see the future being. And it's actually for investment purposes. Every citizen's allowed to look at it, just none of us know about it. So, I mean, I knew the storage warehouses were going to be a big thing 27 years ago when the government came out with the last prospectus of what they looked like, they planned on the future looking like. And they planned on a lot of homelessness because they knew that the storage rental business was going to be a big business. And I actually know a guy that got into that business because of that prospectus, and he's now a multi-millionaire because he followed it. It was about 7 years later than what the government anticipated in their 20-year prospectus, but it still happened. Counties and cities and states have that same thing. It's the economic futures and the prospectus futures that they're working for. Not that they'll get to, but that they're working for. Eventually, they will get to them. And that's also a business way you can look at business. If you just find those papers on the business perspectives or the future outlook of where they plan on being or heading in the next 20 years, and you read what they're looking at, you can set yourself up for success. See, and that's another thing, Jethro. If Congress, and they did pass a bill stating that financial institutions can create money, that actually takes the power of creation of money halfway out of the Fed's pocket and control. Because now you have PayPal, Bank of America, Chase Bank, all looking at creating stable coins backed 1-to-1 with the dollar. So we no longer need the Fed. We have enough dollars out there. We don't need the creation of more dollars. We now have a different use for the dollars that are out there, which negates the use of the persons or the institution that creates that dollar, especially if you're going to change dollar systems. Sounds like a good way to start, huh? Nothing happens overnight, but it does happen through time. And that's what I see happening. Congress okayed these financial institutions to create their own stable currencies, stable coins, currencies, stable coin currencies backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar bill, meaning you're taking your attention is being, half of the world's attention is going to be taken off of the fiat dollar system, because they're going to look at these stable coins, because the stable coins are going to be looked at as a profit margin for savings, lower interest rates on loans, all kinds of shit, because those stable coin banks, the new banks, will be competing for your business, unlike the traditional banks. And that's when the traditional banks will fail, and they won't affect our economy too much, because we'll be able to transition from the failed Bank of America and the failed institutional Chase Manhattan Bank, if they fall, with these other new financial systems that have made up the difference or filled the vacuum that would have occurred had there not been a system in place to rapidly take their place. You see the transition that's possibly coming? This is some good info, people. We're laying out how it's going to pretty much how it's going to happen. There's going to be quirks in there. I don't have the exacts, but this is the roadmap of what's going to happen. I can guarantee you that's the way it's going to happen. The timing, can't guarantee. Timing, there's too many billionaires out there that can throw $100 million at something to change it for a little while and throw timing off. But the end game, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen in that way. And that's the long-term outlet. The short-term wins, times, year, months, not sure. By the end of 2026, I would imagine. But that I'm not sure of. But that's an educated guess on my part. Yeah, you need to share some of that fucking halibut too, buddy. Pull them big halibut out, weigh 150 pounds. It's a lot of fucking fish. Go up there in salmon season, buddy. Learn how to smoke some salmon real good. Oh my God, if you can do salmon real good, you got a customer right here. Smoked salmon. I used to trade. I had a superintendent when I was a free diver. I'd go up in the great white breeding grounds, or actually it was their nursery where the little great whites played around. And a lot of kelp forest up in off the north coast here, or used to be in California, and we'd go abalone diving, and we were allowed to get 4 abalone, and I'd collect abalone over the weekend and go back to work on Monday. And his Bill was his first name. I can't remember his last name. He's a short, fat guy with white hair and a beard. Smoked the hell out of salmon, and he packaged it too. And I traded in my 4 pounds of abalone for like 8 pounds of smoked salmon. It was a bad deal. I mean, he made out because it was like $400. I could have sold that abalone for $100 a pound, but that's illegal. So, but yeah, whatever. I mean, it was free for me. I got the abalone for free. I enjoyed free diving. But his smoked salmon was the best I've ever tasted. At work, I'd have 2 fillets packaged up. By the end of the day, because I'd do the trade in the morning on Monday, by the end of the day, one of those fillets had already been eaten. It's like, fuck, man. Now I've only got 1 salmon for fucking 1 fillet of salmon for the next 4 days, and it didn't last but 1 day. So did that for a couple months. Then I gave up free diving. Just like everything else, I walked away. I was like, fuck it, I'm done. That should be changing, because actually, again, everything comes in cycles. People don't know this, but these dams, these thousands of dams we built throughout America, they were never meant to last forever, only 100, 150 years. And believe it or not, they've been tearing them down now for over 15 years, 20 years. Some of the bigger ones now are starting to come down. And we've also been doing land restoration using beavers, going back to the time when beavers were throughout America and we had no water problems. And they're reintroducing beavers big time into areas for water creation, ponds and stuff like this in drier arid areas to restore fish habitat and all this other shit. And eventually all that's going to lead to a heavier wildlife salmon population. More because of the dams being taken down. 3 big dams just here in California because of salmon just got taken down last year and the year before that. That's how I know about it. There's some the Indians out here had sued to have them taken down first or something like that. And there were pretty big dams on the river that the wild salmon from the ocean used to swim up into the Sierra Nevadas or wherever the hell they go to. So we're fixing to get salmon stocked rivers again naturally. Just because it's a time period. People build houses. Regulation states now when you build a new house, something big should fail within 10 years, so you have to pay for maintenance to stimulate the economy. And it wasn't, houses weren't built like that in the 40s. That's why you can still buy a house that was built in the 40s, but you can't find too many houses that were built in the 80s or 90s because storms destroyed them. Isn't that interesting? It's all regulation. It's designed. You just have to understand your whole life is designed. Find out what the designers were doing. Position yourself properly. It's not personal. Don't take it personally. Just know it happens and fucking take advantage of where you can. And then it doesn't affect you as much because you got more money. Then you step up in the chain of fish. You're no longer a guppy. You're a fucking 4-pound bass not getting eaten. And that's how that works. Most people stay little guppies, so it's a lot to conceive. And if you have family and kids and troubles and jobs and all this other shit, you get sidetracked and you don't even consider this information or knowledge. But this is the information and knowledge you need to succeed, or at least have a good vision of how you personally want to succeed in a world like this, shall I say? Because everyone has their own path to greatness. No one's path is wrong. Most of us don't fulfill our greatness. That's all. And it's mostly due to other people belittling us and tearing us down. That's why I have that saying, be kind, help. Quiet, Silver! Except for to Silver, my cat. Don't be kind, helpful, and grateful to him. He's a dick. Hush! 4 times in 1.5 hours, buddy. Well, that's why I have the saying, be kind, helpful, and grateful. You know? Because everyone has it. And as soon as we realize this, and here's a for example, the guy who's got the highest IQ in the world, they never found out about because he was a bouncer at a bar and he didn't have time to take the test, or did he have the availability? But one day in Time magazine came out with an IQ test, and he was at a bar bouncing, and it was a slow night, so he picked up the magazine, filled out the test, sent it in. They discovered he was the smartest man in the world, but the world economy killed him because he wasn't rich. He didn't have elitist powers, didn't have luxury schooling. So he fucking just lived a normal life, was a fucking bouncer because he's a pretty big dude. And he was smart as fuck. Those people are intentionally and have intentionally been passed over due to this technological revolution that we've had from about the 60s onward, with refrigerators and freezers and all this other new shit came on back there that's old now, but it was new then. We haven't had innovators or thinkers. All those people have been repressed and kept down. There are people out there smart as fucking astrophysics and physics and theology that don't have this elitist training, that aren't even recognized for their genius. And that's a problem of society, because we're losing a lot of everything: arts, wisdoms, knowledge, philosophy, poetry, literature that could be created by these people that are being intentionally, through economics, kept down because they're in a poverty class. And it's been proven in our lifetimes that one of the poorest motherfucking classes in the world, a fucking bouncer, is actually the smartest man in the world that didn't have opportunity to be greatness because of the economic system. So yeah, something in the economy needs to change if we want to proceed to be great. And trust me, I think it's the fiat system and that 50-year dollar that really has put the fucking foot on the neck of the American people to innovate, create, and be great. So I'm not a total Trump type person, but I am down with everyone can be great if given opportunity. And our country has not been given any opportunity. They've actually been keeping their fucking foot on their heads. See, they're not real smart though. They were told, Jethro, they're not real smart. They're smart in brain surgery and rocket science. And you know what? Both of those fields change. So if they quit going to school and quit learning, they'll be obsolete within 8 years. So are they really smart? I guess that depends on the questions you're asking, huh? Sounds like they got to constantly spend money to learn to be considered smart in that field. So is that a smart field or is it a manufactured field? I think it's a manufactured field for the purposes of taking money and in servitude to a certain position of financial application. Oh, you'll be this high in society if you take this job, but you got to constantly spend money in education to get there. You're feeding the beast to get your position. It's an elevated slave. That's lying to everyone else because you say you're a doctor or a fucking rocket scientist. Hell, I know about the nuclear powered rocket engine. I talked about it 3 different shows I did last year. And then this year, NASA comes up and says, oh, hey, we're going to work on a nuclear powered rocket engine. Yeah, I knew that before they publicly announced it. I knew it a year and a half before they publicly announced it. I gave the evidence on my show. I got like 20 views. You know, you can say it like that all nighter, or I could simplify it and just say, get the fluorine out of the water. Get the poison out of the food. And let's see what the fuck happens naturally. I think that would be a big change. I think we'd see dramatic changes. Yeah. But to do that, we need people in positions of power that will do the right thing. Or enough of us bitching at the bottom, and that's usually the hard route. That's why everyone needs to go for local and state positions of government to take control, especially now that we're losing the federal globalist outlook, and we're going back to a state versus state competitive nature. County, city, and towns, local governments has more control over state, and the state will have more control of the nation if it's a good policy, because other states will be competing and they'll be copying the best policies of every state that fits their state's unique needs. So now is actually the greatest time in history, in our lifetime history, to be able to make change politically in the local level that'll actually stands a chance, if it's a good enough idea and policy, to be enacted within 10 years over a couple different states, which means you've greatly made change in America and the world. And it can be done on a local level more so now than ever in our lifetimes. But you got to see that opportunity. You got to see that we're changing. You got to see all the shit's coming. And you got to want to be able to do the change and waste your time doing that rather than something else. I made it a half year further than he did. I made it halfway through the 10th grade. Yes, the sheriffs definitely are. And that's why I actually kind of like the Southeast, man. In my young adult and adult life, I spent a lot of time down in Escambia County, Pensacola, Florida. And the sheriffs and the way it works down there, I got in with all the right people. And even though I've been gone for a long time, my name's still good down there. And because it is, like you said, the sheriff's the real law, down there, they still see it that way. And they have not changed. And I still hold some sway down there as far as I won't be fucked with for being a Californian, because I'll just have to throw out some names and they'll be like, well, oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, bro. And they'll be just, I'll be able to, because I was really in good with the sheriff of Escambia County's family, and he was sheriff for like 4 elections. So I think it was like 16 years he was sheriff of Escambia County, and his Sheriff Potts. And to this day, the Potts family down there is still a renowned name. So, and I actually lived with his son, because we were living with some dancers, titty dancers, and he was living with Zany Janie, and I was hooking up with Celadine, or JoJo was her dance name, and I moved in with JoJo in her room, so we were both living in the same house. But he was Sheriff Potts' son, so I really got to know the family, and I got ties down in the South, in the Gulf Coast Riviera area. So that's the reason why I like that. And another reason why I like that area of the country, because the sheriff, like all I said, the sheriff is the true law in the county. And they're usually good people. I mean, everyone. I mean, they're corrupt too. Don't get me wrong. They're corrupt. If you go to Jefferson, as a matter of fact, during the time period, year-wise, time period of Katrina that hit New Orleans, everyone wants to know why it took the federal government so long to get down there and help them. But what people don't realize, and here's why I say you need to take an outwardly look at everything, is Jefferson Parish New Orleans is located in Jefferson Parish. And just like Atlanta right now, if you watch the news, Atlanta, the criminal legal division of that state is like totally corrupt and fixing to be thrown in federal jail for the corruptness. Well, Jefferson Parish was the most corrupt, quote unquote, county, even though it's a parish, not a county, because it's in Louisiana. It's similar to a county. All of their judges and cops, RICO Act went in there and cleaned them up after Katrina. But they had to, the federal government had to let Katrina play out with no power, because what that did is it crushed the power base of the illegal organizations that had infiltrated the local government to the point where nothing could be done to get them out other than a natural catastrophe and their own people turning against them. And I believe that's the reason why it took so long to get power back to Jefferson County, quote unquote, New Orleans after Katrina. Because after Katrina, the whole Jefferson Parish government and legal system was a lot more legal than it was before Katrina. Well, yeah, being prepared is cool, but never be scared. Be curious, be intrigued, be thoughtful, but don't be scared. Scared puts you in a mindset of failure. Because if you're scared, you're probably going to make a wrong decision and not make a logical choice that would be better if you didn't allow fear. Because fear truly is psychologically the mind killer. It actually literally causes you to make choices and decisions that you rationally wouldn't make otherwise. So if you cannot become fearful or scared, you will actually make more rational, proper decisions, which will lessen the quote unquote fear time that you perceive or the scaredness that you perceive coming. So the first thing of being prepared and not scared is not allowing fear to enter in, because that prepares you for everything, because it changes your mindset. And instead of being fearful of something coming, you're looking at it saying, okay, well, I can do this, this, and this. And if you consider a starting point mentally of, oh my God, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. And a starting point of, okay, cool, let's open the doors. There's a field. I can do some stuff there. I can do some stuff there. Which one's going to succeed? You see what I'm saying? So right off the bat, the oldest of sayings is true. Fear is the mind killer. Your mind will kill you before life has a chance. Give life a chance, because it doesn't want to kill you. Your fear actually does. Oh yeah, dude. Fear will kill you quicker than shit as a scuba diver, bro. You freak out and turn the wrong switch as your fucking regulator gets pulled out and tangled up, or yeah, fear is definitely a mind killer in that scenario. And in every scenario, your own brain. That's why I think the subconscious is more powerful and right than the conscious, because your subconscious controls things that your conscious you'd be dead if you had to think about your heart beating, if you had to think about muscle contraction to pass blood up and down your veins throughout your body, if you had to think about inhaling and exhaling and having the cells in your body pick up that oxygen, you'd be dead. Your conscious brain doesn't do it. I think our conscious brain is here to fuck us up, or allow us to the greatest achievements in history if we can get over that fear. Because if you can tap into your subconscious in a conscious way, I think you'll succeed more and enjoy success more, because you'll be in the right frequency vibration of energy. Because your conscious mind usually is what brings fear and stops you from doing things. And actually, our mind introduced this word called can't. And that is the biggest roadblock to being able to do anything in the world. Because as soon as you say, I can't do that, well, you'll never be able to do it, even if you try. Because mentally, you already convinced yourself you can't. And that's why I don't like that word. And I don't think it should ever have been invented, or at least not the definition of not being able to, can't. Because I've never seen a can't. But I got a whole I got, see, 3, 6, 7. I have 8 can'ts right here that I can look at, but I don't see one can't. So don't let your mind stop you from doing things. If that car's there and you got to get it out of your way, don't say, I can't move it. Look at it and say, oh, well, I'll need a piece of equipment to move it. Or I'll need to go check to see if the brakes are unlocked and I can throw it in neutral. Don't say, I can't, because that stops you from thinking of ways you can before you even start. So you failed before you started. So why are you here? To be a failure? It's all in your perspective. Change perspective, life changes. Your decision changes. Your decisions become better. Your life becomes better. Smoke break. Woo-wee. Woo! That was some good shit there, buddy. Exactly. There's several ways that people put that, and they go a little far, in my opinion, depending on the way that they phrase that. But yeah, pretty much that's right. My family motto, and this is going to sound crazy. There's a little story. Cops have it documented in this town. It's a true story. Uh, this guy, as I was like chasing out the Entertainias and the Hells Angels in this area, I was doing my neighborhood nighttime walks to make sure motherfuckers weren't doing stupid shit in alleyways because we have alleys here and they're paved. So people actually do crazy shit. And I was walking down this one alley, 2 alleys north of me. And this guy had a privacy fence and he didn't like me walking in the alley. And I knew the house. It was an Entertaining house. He had his 9mm and it was a privacy fence. It was about 5 foot tall privacy fence. He put his arms over it to where I could see the gun, started talking shit to me. So I like, okay, I hopped on the phone, called the cops. He kept talking shit and then he started pointing at me. First thing I noticed when he did that was I looked at trigger squeeze. And I realized which direction the bullet would go if he decided to pull the trigger. And then, the lady from 911 was there. But I was talking to this cat. I was like, hold on, I'm talking to this guy. He's holding a gun on me. And I was like, and she was like, what? And I heard her talking. But then I started ragging the guy who had the gun. I was like, dude, you think that a fucking gangbanger can shoot and hit something at 30 foot? I says, you probably couldn't even hit the fucking side of the wall. That's why innocent bystanders get shot when you motherfuckers do your drive-bys because you don't know how to fucking squeeze a trigger. And I was just giving him hell. The lady on 911 was like freaking out. Ended up within like 5 minutes, there was like 12 cop cars there because the lady thought the guy was going to kill me. And I was just ragging. And this guy had a gun. And I was just ragging him out because I'm an asshole like that. And I have balls. And I was just like, fuck you, guy. Go ahead and shoot. Let's see which way the bullet goes. And then later in the night, I swear she had a heart attack. But yeah, and then here's another time, 8 officers showed up. I was doing a little side gig for this real estate company. I was taking care of his properties, maintaining the lawn. It's getting like $20 an hour. So I was like, okay, part-time after work shit. And there's this one area in the heavily black area on the weekend. It was a Saturday. So I went and do this lawn. It was like 10 in the morning on a Saturday. 10 in the morning is not early. I'm sorry, right? So this black lady I was on the second floor of the house next door where I was working, came out and started racially insulting me. She did it once. I looked at her. I said, ma'am, that's not polite. I'm sorry, but I'm getting paid to do this job. And then she racially slurred me again. I was like, ma'am, that's very rude. And I have not, brought up race in this whole conversation. And I was very polite to her. And then she brought up a racial slur for the 3rd time. I was like, okay, strike 1, 2, 3, Neil. Fuck being nice. So I started, being, using racial slurs to her. So her little teenage son came out, took off his shirt, started acting like a primate. So I took off my shirt and told him, I said, well, why don't you just jump over the fence? And I said, well, fuck it, I'll go outside. If you want to really hit me that bad, I'll make it easy for you. And apparently his mom had called all her friends, and eventually it took about 7 or 8 minutes. And I had called Marion Swanson. She was the lady who worked at the office at the real estate. And I said, hey, this is happening. Hey, I got to put the phone down because there's more, African Americans coming. I need to have both my hands. So I hung up on her, put my phone in my pocket. And she was real good friends with Captain McConnell, who was captain of the police department of this town at that time. And these black guys started showing up, surrounding me. And I was straight up, I was just telling them the story. I was like, hey, check this out, man. Before we get fisticuffing here, I want to let you know, why you're going to get pain. As this lady came out and slurred me racially 3 times. I said, after that, I started using racial slurs back. If you don't think that's fair, you think I'm a racist, then, let's fisticuff it. I don't care how many of you are. I'll fucking fight all you son of bitches. And then 6 fucking cop cars pull up and they come in, grab me, pull me out of the crowd because I was totally surrounded by blacks. I actually had my back up to the fence, not totally up against it, but to where, because it wasn't to that point. They were like 4 or 5 foot away from me and whatnot. And I was still talking my shit because I didn't give a fuck. And then I had the fence was like 3 or 4 foot behind me, a privacy fence. So I knew no one was behind me. So I felt comfortable talking my shit. And then the cops made it there, pulled me out. And it turned out to be nothing. I held my ground. I don't give I really just don't give a fuck. If I'm right, dude, I'll stand my ground. I don't give a fuck. And that's my attitude. That's why, and I think it comes from my family, my Scottish family. And it wasn't always sans pure. It was different as languages changed. But for about 1,000 years, my Scottish family, their motto was sans pure. It means fear less, fear nothing. So I guess genetically inbred to me. I don't fear shit, man. If you're gonna kill me, kill me. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. You know, I've went to war. I've had to fucking, I've had all kinds of shit try. People, trust me, people try to kill me. I am an asshole. It didn't work for them. I've had fucking guys in uniforms of other countries ordered to kill me because I was with our country. It didn't work for them. So I'm a little scrawny son of a bitch, but I've had people try to kill me. It didn't work out for them. So I talked my piece. I'm glad everyone's here still listening to me. But yeah, fear is a bad thing, bro. Adrenaline, it's a good thing. Fear, nah. Fear, nothing. Except for great white sharks and blood in the water. You can have a little fear then. That's a good fear. All right, so what else you guys do? All nighters, the only one talking. You got Jethro in here. Come on, guys. This chit chat. This is a chit chat. It isn't fucking put me on and walk away from the computer and go fucking vacuum clean or whatever the hell you guys do. I'll repost this in case anyone wants to come up. And if nobody wants to come up or ask any more questions or whatever, I'll go ahead and end this stream. Thank all you guys. I really do appreciate you listening to my bullshit. I hope that I actually get something intelligent through that you get from this. Not I get, but I hope I enlighten you at some point in time in some way or fashion that makes it worth your time being here, because I do appreciate you being here. And you guys have a great weekend. Don't drink and drive. Make sure to spay and neuter your pet. Be kind, helpful, and grateful. Buy some silver, some platinum, and some crystallized osmium. And smoke some weed. I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you very much. God bless America.